Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
President Park Geun-hye stresses that it takes people's patriotism and unity to defend the country, adding that the government will not tolerate any action that creates a division in society.
Leaders of the two main rival parties met, but did they make a breakthrough? Find out more in the headlines.
And are you a smart shopper? We'll tell you what one newspaper says are the qualities of a smart shopper coming up on In Print.
The United Nations adopts a resolution condemning North Korea for its human rights violations, the ninth of its kind since 2005. Amidst the mounting pressure, where do things stand? And with temperatures dipping, there have been a series of winter viruses on the rise, from viruses that cause respiratory diseases to food poisoning. What's out there and how can we protect ourselves? On Tuesday, November 26, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And a good Tuesday morning. You're watching Korea Today. The strong winds we warned of yesterday have taken a toll in some parts of Korea.
And some people say that some experts say that they were as strong as winds that you would see in a typhoon. Now, damage to buildings, including fallen brick walls, as well as church spires, and damage to traffic lights were reported throughout the country, as well as heavy winds that pushed cargo ships aground, now forcing the South Korean Coast Guard to come out for rescue efforts off the coast of Ulsan. And not only that, coastal cities and docks, they all basically kept all the boats on dock, and boats were not allowed to travel because a severe storm warning was issued across the country.
That's right. And tonight we're expecting up to 5 centimeters of snow in Seoul and even more snow in other parts of Korea like Gyeonggi-do and Chungcheongbuk-do. And there's going to be a heavy snow warning issued, most likely in other parts of Korea, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, so here it begins the winter season and the first real snow that we're going to see on the peninsula. First, we'll go to our headlines with Na Hyun-kyung.
Now, referring to the recent controversy sparked by comments from a Catholic priest seemingly justifying North Korea's shelling of South Korea's Yeonpyeong-do Island 3 years ago, President Park Geun-hye says such statements not only undermine the sacrifices made by the fallen soldiers and the people, but also torment those who live on.
앞으로 저와 정부는 국민들의 신뢰를 저하시키고 분열을 야기하는 이런 일들은 용납하거나 묵과하지 않을 것입니다.
Prime Minister Chung Hong-won also says the remarks, which came from leftist priest Park Chang-shin, can be seen as siding with the enemy and destroying the country's fundamentals. Park is part of a liberal group of Catholic priests who've been calling on the president to step down due to an investigation into the alleged meddling of a state agency into last year's presidential race. Now, the regional prosecutor's office in the city of Jeonju is reportedly looking into launching a formal investigation into Park Chang-shin. Let's resolve it in a friendly, consultative manner, says China regarding its recently announced air defense zone, which includes the aerial space above Korea-controlled Gyeonggi-do. Responding to Seoul's vocal reaction to China's announcement, Beijing's Foreign Ministry spokesman Qin Gang said Monday that China hopes to win coordination and understanding from Korea on the matter through dialogue. Gyeonggi-do is a submerged rock mass lying on the two countries' overlapping exclusive economic zones near the East China Sea. Now, China's new defense zone has also sparked conflict with Japan, as it includes the disputed Diaoyu or Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Chin said his government summoned the Japanese ambassador to China to express Beijing's strong dissatisfaction about Japan's quote-unquote unreasonable hype over China's new air defense zone. So the leaders of the two main rival parties here in Korea met at the National Assembly on Monday, but without a significant breakthrough. The meeting took place at 2 p.m. on Monday after main opposition Democratic Party leader Kim Han-gil proposed a one-on-one with ruling party leader Hwang Woo-yeol in the morning. Now here's what the two had to say going into the talks.
The public desperately wants us to fulfill our duty and administer state affairs. I feel sorry that we have not lived up to the people's expectations in this regard.
I hope to see a drastic change in the ruling party's stance since President Park Geun-hye emphasized once again this morning that she will respect whatever agreement is made at the National Assembly.
But even after about an hour-long meeting behind closed doors, the two were unable to make much progress. Representative Hwang said he will give the DP an answer within the next 3 to 4 days on whether the Saenuri Party will accept the DP's demand to form a special investigative body on the nation's spy agency's alleged election meddling. In return, though, he asked the DP to commit to passing next year's budget bill separately from the ongoing political tug-of-war. The ruling party's Supreme Council is set to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday to review proposals made by the main opposition party. The head of Korea-U.S. Combined Forces Command says he is mulling over leaving some American soldiers north of Seoul near the inter-Korean border. Giving his first press conference since taking office last month, General Curtis Scaparrotti said Monday that although the main components of the U.S. Forces Korea are scheduled to be relocated to southern Gyeonggi-do, south of Seoul, by 2016, leaving some combined forces behind could act as another strong deterrent to Pyongyang. He added that as it is a sensitive issue, a careful and thorough review will be conducted before any decision is made. Now, the general also outlined Seoul and Washington's new strategy for countering the North Korean missile threat. The strategy will be based on 4 Ds, he says: defense, detect, destruct, and destroy.
And good morning, everyone. If you were outdoors yesterday, you might have noticed the significantly colder conditions and the strong, slappy winds didn't help either. I know I certainly felt those winds in the morning. Now, Gyeongyang Shinmun's front page image shows a casualty of those strong winds, which caused an oil tanker to run aground off the waters of Ulsan. You're seeing in the background there the Bomjin-ho that hit the ground in the early morning hours on Monday. Thankfully, no human casualties were reported thanks to the efforts of the Coast Guard officers. There were 2 other ships that were also carried off course, a Chinese bulk carrier and a Panama registered ship. All right, moving right along to Jungang-ilbo next. Its top story brings us back to the brewing controversy following remarks from left-leaning Catholic priest Park Chang-shin over the weekend. Reaction to his comments that North Korea's shelling of Yeonpyeong Island could be seen as justified peppers several of our front pages this morning, particularly as President Park Geun-hye has expressed her stern stance. Now, Jungang-ilbo's headline reads, "Behavior that divides a people will not be condoned. Cheongwade ruling party government united in strong reaction." You heard from the president in Hyungyang's headlines, and the article adds that Prime Minister Chung Hong-won also did not hold back his criticism. He said the priest's remarks were not only reflective of North Korea's logic, but they also advocated North Korea's provocations that ultimately claimed the lives of innocent bystanders and must take responsibility in due course. You'll remember priest Park Chang-shin made the inflammatory remarks during a Friday Mass 1 day before the 3rd anniversary of the North shelling of Yeonpyeong Island. All right, next up is Donga-ilbo, Joseon-ilbo. Donga-ilbo has a similar story there, so we'll go ahead and scoot on over to Joseon-ilbo next. It has the president's reaction to its front page as well. The side story, meanwhile, spotlights a comment made by U.S. General Curtis Scaparrotti on Monday. The headline reads, "Some residual U.S. forces may need to stay north of the Han River." It is the first such public mention mention, the article says, by Commander Scaparrotti, who was named the top U.S. commander in Korea just last month. Seoul and Washington were under an agreement to move all U.S. forces south of the Han River by the year 2016. But with this latest mention, the possibility of changing course on that emerged. And the paper reports that the possibility of inserting Korean troops to the U.S.'s 2nd Infantry Division had been floated since last year. For now, though, various plans are under consideration according to the general, and a decision will be reached according to what is seen as best to defend Korea in light of the North Korean threat. And finally, we wrap things up with a look at Made Business newspaper. It features a so-called new type of shopper on its front page there. The headline reads, "Out of deep economic slump, smart shoppers emerge." Now, the article says the economic slump has shrunk consumer spending drastically and also changed the ways people are buying, giving rise to the so-called smart shopper. So, who is this smart shopper? We'll take a look at the insert for that. First off, they are sensitive to prices, but when there is something they absolutely must buy, they use creative ways to nab the best price. Now, that could include scouring for the best deals on the internet, as well as those advertised via social networking services. They do plenty of research to maximize their savings, even to the level of department store buyers, the paper says, and likely to keep an eye on the so-called spot sales that offer a great deal for a limited amount of time. They are also quite loyal to their favorite brands. Now, retailers are also responding to these patterns of spending, finding creative ways to encourage spending. For example, offering a 10-month interest-free installment plan, also partnering with well-known designers to offer a more affordable alternative for high-end designs. And with that, we'll wrap your look at what's in print on this Tuesday. Next up are your closing numbers from Monday's Market Action.
And as we mentioned at the top of the hour, we're expecting some real signs of winter tonight. And I'm not talking about the romantic kind of snow. This is the kind of snow that make you out of the car and push the car, right?
Especially if it piles up and it's at night, because the roads might freeze overnight. For a look at today's weather, we'll go to Lee Dami, who's joining us from Seongnam. Good morning, Dami.
Good morning, Dami.
All bundled up.
That's right.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday morning. I'm reporting live from Seongnam, Gyeonggi-do, and yes, I did bundle myself up because it is very cold today. Now, gale advisories have been lifted here in the central regions. However, it is quite cold this morning as temperatures are at negative 1.6 degrees Celsius right now. Now, sharp winds are blowing this morning, and we're starting out with clear conditions. But as the day progresses, we will be seeing an increase of clouds, and sometime later in the afternoon or by evening here in the central regions, also Gangwon-do and Chungcheongbuk-do, there will be signs of snow. So please be cautious on the roads. And by tomorrow morning, it looks like the snow will spread nationwide. Now, throughout the week, the weather will only be getting colder, and this Thursday will be the peak as temperatures will dip all the way down to negative 5 degrees Celsius. So prepare yourselves for that. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers for today. Seoul's highs will only reach up to 5, Daegu and Gwangju at 9, Busan and Jeju will be in the double digits at 12 degrees. The weather is going to get colder this week, so prepare yourselves by gearing up from head to toe. That's all I have for the weather. I'll be back in the latter half.
Last week, the UN General Assembly's Human Rights Committee adopted a draft resolution condemning North Korea for its human rights abuses. Now, the adoption of these resolutions has become almost an annual rite since 2005. But this year, it strongly called on the regime to close its political prison camps.
Seoul's foreign ministry says that there is mounting pressure from the international community regarding North Korea's human rights violations, which experts say has been increasing since Kim Jong-un took power. We'll get a look at the details.
On November 19th, the UN General Assembly's Third Committee, tasked with overseeing social and humanitarian issues, unanimously passed a resolution on North Korea's human rights.
There are no oppositions to adopting the North Korea Human Rights Resolution. It has been adopted.
The draft resolution was jointly proposed by 49 countries, including South Korea, the European Union, the US, and Japan, and following last year, it was passed universally without being put to a vote.
We are also extremely concerned about the consistent reports on the existence of an extensive system of political prison camps where alarming human rights violations are being committed.
The most noteworthy point of the draft resolution adopted for 2014 is the call on Pyongyang to close political prison camps and immediately release all political prisoners. The second demand was that Pyongyang release information on repatriated North Korean defectors. If last year's resolution expressed concern about human rights violations in prison camps, this year's strongly demands the immediate release of political prisoners and calls on Pyongyang to completely shut down its prison camps. Not only that, the resolution, for the first time, stipulates conditions of defectors who are forcefully repatriated. In response, North Korea's foreign ministry lashed out, condemning the adoption of the resolution. What is the current state of human rights issues in North Korea? In August, the Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea held public hearings in South Korea, providing a platform for North Korean defectors to share with the world stories about ongoing human rights violations in the reclusive state. At the hearing, there were various defectors, ranging from people born into prison camps to those who worked as guards there.
Inside the prison camps, there are executions, and the human rights abuses are unthinkable of in South Korea. When I started working there as a prison guard, public executions were an annual event. While I was there, I saw some 20 public executions. Because you don't need to pay prisoners and can force them into labor, North Korea needs these prison camps not only to uphold its system, but also for economic benefits.
Currently, the UN and human rights organizations estimate there are anywhere between 120,000 to 200,000 political prisoners in more than 4 prison camps in the Gyecheon, Yodok, Myeonggan, and Cheongjin regions. And inside the walls of these prison camps is the brutal reality of forced labor, torture, beatings, and execution, all of which occur on a regular basis. The draft resolution adopted this year calls on Pyongyang to provide information on the treatment and status of repatriated North Korean defectors. The number of defectors who are repatriated is estimated to stand at roughly 10 to 20% of those who attempt to escape. If they are determined to have defected for political or religious reasons, they are sent to prison camps number 16 and 22 in Hamhung and receive separate treatment.
For those who are caught while defecting, after going through an intensive questioning session, if it turns out they wanted to defect to the south or had religious motivation, they get sent to the political prison camps. If it was just from starvation, they go to the regular prison camps. But in that process, you see numerous human rights abuses.
Especially since the death of former leader Kim Jong-il towards the end of 2011, North Korea has beefed up security along its borders, making it more difficult to escape, and punishment of those captured has also become more severe. While the spotlight is on North Korea and its human rights violations as they become more egregious, it also leaves South Korea with more challenges and issues that it must address.
And to tell us more about the adopted resolution, we're now joined by Mr. Lee Young-hwan, who was recently on the Presidential Council for Future and Vision, who is now an advisor for the Citizens Alliance for North Korean Human Rights. Good morning. Welcome to our program.
Good morning.
Now, it's the second time in a row that the North Korea Human Rights Resolution was adopted by consensus without voting, but there are some notable changes this year. How is it different this time, and what does it mean?
As you properly mentioned, adopting the resolution by consensus without voting shows the international widespread concerns on North Korean human rights issue. The situation is still worsening, and the United Nations sees it is hard to expect any meaningful improvement in the near future. And there are 2 points that stands out in this resolution. The first one is it urges North Korean government to shut down the political prisoners camps and release the prisoners right away. And the other thing is the expression and the tone in the resolution is much more stronger and more concrete compared to the past.
So why do you think the UN is showing, I mean, it's been an ongoing issue, of course, but why this year why is it more taking more interest in making that stronger tone?
Yeah, North Korean government always denied the fact that there are a lot of escaping people, but the situation is visual, and the truth is easy to be verified. Through many documentary clips and various testimonies provided by North Korean defectors. There are tens of thousands of North Korean defectors.
Right, more videos are leaking out.
Right. So the harsh and inhumane treatments inflicted to those people could be one of the best evidences that proves North Korean, the mass human rights violation committed by North Korea. And lastly, and most importantly, it is a key issue to pressure China not to defend North Korea anymore. To pressure North Korea more effectively, it is necessary to make China become more neutral.
Okay, so we're seeing mounting pressure from the international community. What about South Korea? What's South Korea's reaction to this?
Yeah, of course, relevant NGOs and many activists welcome it. And the general public also seems to take it for granted. And it is also okay because more and more people pay more concerns and pay more attention to these issues. But most activists are much disappointed that politicians do not pay much attention. The major Saenuri party welcomed the resolution and called on to pass the
North Korean Human Rights Act.
Yeah, act pending in the National Assembly.
Right.
But the voice is not sufficient to make these issues as a urgent issue. And the opposition Democratic Party is still reluctant to cooperate with.
That's right. The Democratic Party is mindful of South Korea's relations with North Korea.
Yeah.
Right. What's going to happen next? We've seen the adoption of these resolutions time and over again. So what can the UN do more to add more pressure to North Korea?
Yeah, the draft resolution will be sent to the United Nations General Assembly in the next month, and it will be automatically adopted. But what activists are really expecting is that the first report of the newly established UN Commission of Inquiry. The chairman. What is important is that the chairman of the commission, Michael Kirby, recently mentioned that he will put into his report a special chapter on China. So it means that the protection of North Korean refugees will be one of the most hottest issue in United States. In United Nations.
So we'll have to wait and see if North Korea does listen to and takes this resolution to heart and make any changes.
All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, that was Mr. Lee Young-hwan from the advisor for the Citizens Alliance for North Korean Human Rights. And still ahead on Korea Today, we're going to be looking at robotics and the technology behind it. From research to development, students have built a wall climbing robot that has been patented in Korea. We bring the robot to our studio and its developer in our studio as well to see how it defies gravity and look at how it can be used in the future.
The Seoul Metropolitan Government has been coming up with creative ways to make Seoul a safe city to live in, especially for women at night. And in March, it launched a night guard service where women will be accompanied by other people to get back home safely.
This is slightly different. It's sort of a neighborhood watch system, and neighborhood watch systems around the world have proven to be effective in preventing crime. But this time, Korea is doing it a little bit different, a neighborhood watch system where the delivery boys get to do a little bit more than deliver your food. We'll take a look.
At City Hall in Seoul, delivery men from fast food restaurants across the city come together. Their new duty is to be a maul pasugwan, or neighborhood watchman. Not only do they deliver food, they watch over their respective areas and report any criminal activity.
Delivery men are out and about in different neighborhoods until late into the night all year round. We thought it would help immensely to have them watch over the areas and look out for women to prevent crimes. That's why we appointed them as neighborhood watchmen.
Some of the main fast food chains in Seoul include McDonald's and Domino's Pizza. These two companies combined have roughly 110 directly run branches in the city. By selecting some 10 delivery men from each branch, they have put together a team of 1,000 neighborhood watchmen.
It's a great honor to be able to take part in a program that can help enhance security for women in their respective neighborhoods.
It's everyone's responsibility, not only the Seoul City governments, to take care of and look out for those who are more weak or vulnerable in society, including women.
The reason why the city government and companies have come together to enhance safety conditions is because of the increase in crimes against women. Over the span of 1 year, from 2011 to 2012, the number of crimes jumped by 11.5%, and it is still on the rise this year. There are various countermeasures already in place, such as late-night protection services for women, safe taxi services, and late-night buses. And amid this, using delivery men who are out at late hours working has also been adopted as a safety measure. 10 days ahead of its official launch on the 1st of December, trials are already being run at a number of branches. Kim Sung-eun has been selected as one of Seoul's neighborhood watchmen.
Because I know the neighborhood better than anyone else, since it's my delivery zone, I think I'll be able to play a good role in preventing crime.
Since he had been designated as a watchman, Kim says he has developed a habit of looking around the neighborhood with greater care.
I find myself looking at areas that I wouldn't have noticed before to make sure nothing is happening. Especially in dark areas, I look more meticulously.
The main duty of these watchmen is to help the neighborhood become crime-free. They monitor dark alleys in areas that are less safe and also report crimes.
When we come across a dangerous situation, we don't jump in there to help because it's important for us to stay safe as well. Our job is to report the crime quickly so that police can handle the situation in a speedy fashion.
They also report areas with damaged public facilities, places where troubled teenagers or heavily intoxicated people frequent, and other hazardous areas to make sure it does not threaten the safety of others. In emergencies, they report directly to the police on 112 hotlines, and situations which could create discomfort are reported using an application, which only takes 1 or 2 minutes to send in a report.
The Seoul Smart Report system for inconveniences allows deliverymen to report dangerous or hazardous situations by taking photos and storing the location via GPS. Then they fill out a report and send it in. This is sent to Seoul's 120 call center, and it is passed on to the relevant police station or firehouse to be swiftly taken care of.
Not only do they deliver our food, these 1,000 neighborhood watchmen will help establish a stronger safety network across the city.
I would like to see the number of crimes against women drop with the help of the work that we do.
I'm very proud to be a neighborhood watchman, and I will work hard with other delivery men across the city to make Seoul a safer place.
The watchman system will be implemented for a year. And after that, it will expand to foster more watchmen with more companies.
I think it's a great idea to utilize the delivery men as watchmen. And I think personally as a woman, I think I would feel safer in a dark alley knowing that someone might be going around the neighborhood looking out for me.
And maybe we'll see more delivery women as well, keeping us safe, right? And hopefully, like you said, more companies will be interested in this project.
That's right. They're doing this on top of their regular work. So basically, this is a volunteer service that they're providing for. And the city, Seoul City, is also looking for ways to maybe reward these volunteers by really putting in that time there and then recognizing their volunteer work as real volunteer credits and a little bit more than that.
That's right. Well, let's leave that there and go to our Dami, who is standing by at the Seongnam Arts Center in Gyeonggi-do.
Okay, we'll see what she has in store for us. Dami.
Oh, she's in a different outfit too. Back to you.
All right, I see a lot of cultural stuff in the background.
Thanks, guys. I'm back reporting live from Seongnam Arts Center. And with a cold and bleak winter ahead of us, something that can really warm and soothe our hearts is music. And in the world, there are hundreds of different instruments that we can make music with, whether it be a piano or a guitar or instruments from different countries. Well, here at the Seongnam Arts Center, they have opened an exhibition called the World Instrument Exhibition. So this is a great place where you can check out instruments from all over the world, from 41 different countries and 144 different instruments. So right now we're at the Asia corner and we're looking at instruments from China, Vietnam, India, etc. And it's great because you don't have to get on a plane to enjoy music from all around the world. Now, as we look around, there are lots of different things that we can see. But if we take a look here, we can look at some of the technological things. They have a screen, a touch screen, where you can check out instruments from different continents. And right now, let's go ahead and check Europe. And let's see, virginal. So this is actually popular, a plucked string instrument, which was popular back in the 15th to 17th century in the UK. And they also provide videos so that you can see and hear the instrument itself. There we go, that's the virginal. Oh, I think I've heard this sounds from some movie from back in the 15th century, 15th to the 17th century. And what's great is that not only can you look, but also enjoy and play some of the music itself. So right now, what I have in front of me is the angklung, and it's from Indonesia. You kind of shake the instrument and it makes noise. And it makes music like this. Ta-da! There's just lots of different things, and I think this one's really pretty. It's called the kashishi. But all in all, it's a great place for everyone, especially children, to come and learn about the different instruments from different countries and also the history and the culture from other countries as well. They also say that they're going to make an application for smartphones so that you can learn more information on the exhibition, so I'm looking forward to that. If you'd like more information, you can always check out the website for Seongnam Arts Center and find out more about this World Instrument exhibition. That's all I have for now. I'm Idami, Korea Today.
And still ahead, with the colder weather comes a series of viruses active in the winter. From the food poisoning norovirus to RSV, which causes respiratory diseases, we look at what these viruses are and what precautions to take to stay healthy.
Robot technology has made a quantum leap in recent years, from a robot that helps in the kitchen to a robot that keeps the jellyfish population in check. Korea boasts some homegrown robot technologies as well.
And add a wall climbing robot to that list, and this is generating some buzz. This has won a patent in the country. So let's take a closer look at this new off-the-wall robot that stays on the wall.
At Hanggang National University's Institute for Information Technology Convergence, there are 6 robot research teams. And there's one robot that they are working hard on to produce good results. It's the docking robot. Docking robots, using their wheels, can move in any direction. And on surfaces where they cannot travel on wheels, they can also walk. Docking 2 robots require highly advanced and meticulous technology, and one of its strengths is there is no limit to how many robots it can connect with.
With robot docking, we can overcome tasks that one robot cannot handle by combining 2 different robots and enhancing efficiency of the operation.
On sites of accidents or natural disasters, there is a limit to what one robot can accomplish, but with multiple small robots combined, they can work at a greater capacity. There's also a robotic dog which can mimic the movement of humans. A humanoid robot that can dance to music. A robot with 6 feet and many other ongoing projects. Among these various projects, the robot that's receiving the most attention is this wall climbing robot, which can scale up buildings.
This is the wall climbing robot. It can move along the ground and also along flat surfaces indoors and outdoors on walls.
The robot, which operates on wheels, can climb up a wall without much difficulty and move up to 5 meters per minute. Also, it can be remotely controlled with a smartphone.
Using a smartphone with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and various other communication methods, we can control the robot regardless of how far away it is.
Using its 5-megapixel camera attached to the body, the robot is able to record and transmit its surroundings from a third location. This is because the recorded footage is sent live through a smartphone. There's much anticipation on how these robots developed by students will be put to use in the future.
And the man who has brought this robot to life, Professor Kim Sang-hoon from Hanggang National University, joins us in the studio. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Now, Doctor, this is the question. How does it work?
The most important principle that allows the robot to climb the wall is how it sticks to the wall and how it moves. Let me show you how it works now.
Wow. So it just climbs up like that with no special assistance.
And it's not a glass surface either, so I'm imagining that there would be imperfections on the surface of the wall, but it's able to just stay up there, just like that. Okay, it moves, turns around.
So, and the 2 most important questions you mentioned, so how does it remain on the wall and how does it move? So tell us, answer the first question for us.
Yes, if I say about the technology, for sticking to the wall, the robot uses a vacuum state that is created when a big space within the robot let out the air, and then it creates a vacuum in that spaces. And at the time, forces between the wall and the vacuum spaces existing at the time, and that lets the robot stick to the wall.
And Young has pointed this out, but that's not a glass wall. It's a wooden wall, so does it climb any type of wall?
Not yet. This technology is very difficult and the most advanced So even the most advanced technology in other world can climb only on one surfaces.
Flat surface.
We are trying to make this robot climb on the flat surfaces like glass or cement, something like that.
Well, I was thinking most likely that before I had actually seen this robot, that it would probably be able to climb up glass surfaces using some kind of a suction force. But I'm kind of amazed to see this as well. But with this technology, what are some practical, real-world implementations that could be used using what we have right now?
The most important thing we have to do is to control the balance between the two forces. The one is strong to stick to the wall, and the other thing is the forces to move after overcome all sum of forces. And after that, if we find the stable technology, this technology can be used even in the practical fields like surveillance or detecting some dangerous situation like fire or harmful gases occurring on the wall. So, but now we are still striving to improve the technology.
And but what are some of the other improvements that you're trying to make, maybe moving on a flat surface to begin with, right?
Yeah, we still have many things to do in the future, and I can think three things. The first thing we have to do is to overcome the difficulties and differences between various kind of surfaces so that the robot can be used in practical use. And the second thing is to improve the robots to move across the edge of the wall because there are many edge areas on the practical area and also so that it can be used in practical use. And the last thing is to improve many algorithms for intelligent robot. This robot is kind of an intelligent robot, can be used instead of human. And we have many additional functions on it. For example, image processing and control circuits on it. And we have several useful sensors like illumination detection sensors and fire sensors and harmful gas sensors. So signal processing technology have to be improved. And we already have many of contributions, but we need many things to do in the future.
Okay, well, Professor Kim, thank you for your time and good luck with that. And I have to say, I had never seen a wall climbing robot in my life, never heard of it, and now it's so good to see that. It's a good job that you've done.
Yes, it definitely looks like it's on its baby steps, but has a lot of potential in the future. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
No, I'm not going to lie, robots climbing walls, that's pretty impressive. But either way, a good Tuesday morning to you all and a great Tuesday morning if you're a fan of Seongnam football team in the K-League Classic. And after a meeting with the city councilman on Monday, the city got closer to keeping their football team. Now, while it was widely speculated that Ansan City would take over Seongnam-ida Cheonma after the season, the fans of Seongnam and the mayor of Seongnam, Lee Jae-myung, fought hard to keep the team in the city. And just yesterday, an ordinance bill was passed, which gets them closer to getting just that. While the deal wasn't finalized just yet, the bill should be enough to have the team return to the city for next season. And moving over to baseball, where Yoon Sung-min, who's over in the U.S., is still looking to find a major league team to sign with. And according to several sources, he should be able to real soon. While the Minnesota Twins have been the front runners in signing the 27-year-old righty, the two sides have not been able to reach a deal. However, despite the fact that his agent, Scott Boras, is one of the toughest agents to negotiate with, 6 teams are highly interested in signing the ace. While shoulder injury was a concern to many, he continues to work out while he's over there, as he's expected to sign a deal real soon. And moving over to domestic basketball, where the first round of the 2013-2014 season came to an end over the weekend. And it's been quite an exciting first round. Now, as expected, the Seoul SK Knights look very good after the first round as they sit in first place with a 2.5-game lead. And of course, right behind them are last year's champions, the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus. Despite sitting in second place, have had their share of ups and downs so far, losing games that they should have won. And while it's been a great start for those two teams, Anyang KGC and Wonju-donggu Promi have really been struggling so far as they're tied for last place. Of course, these two teams faced off in the finals just a year ago. And finishing things off, the first round of the 2013-2014 V-League season also came to an end, and it looks very similar to last season. Of course, in first place after 6 matches are the Samsung Hwajae Bluefangs, who lost just 1 game in the first round. Now, Samsung has been dominating the league since the start of the V-League, as they've won 7 championships in the last 9 seasons, including 6 in a row. And right behind them are Hyundai Capital Skywalkers and the Korean Air Jumbos, who, despite a great start to their season, are in second place. Meanwhile, Russian Cash Vespid hope to bounce back in the second round of the season as they remain winless after the first round. And that wraps it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
We generally associate food poisoning to the warm summer months, but there are a rising number of food poisoning cases during the wintertime as well, and that is due to the norovirus. And we're going to take a look at some of these viruses that are extra resilient to the winter weather. Joining us is Dr. Alice Hyun-Kyung-dan from Samsung Medical Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Hi, good morning. Yes, so the winter virus season is just about to get into full swing, so this is a really good time to get a healthy dose of information so that we know what's out there and what to expect. Everyone knows about the flu or influenza. I hope you all got your flu shots.
I have a huge needle phobia, if you must know.
And influenza is unique in that there is a preventative vaccine and also an antiviral treatment, but that unfortunately is not the case for the majority of the other winter viruses out there, such as RSV or respiratory syncytial virus, which causes a very severe lung infection, especially in children less than 2 years of age. Also, there's a coronavirus, which I think you'll remember the SARS outbreak, which originated in China. Also, there's a new mutated variety that has caused fatalities in the Middle East. And there's also viruses such as the norovirus that you just mentioned, which is known as the stomach virus. It causes really bad projectile vomiting and diarrhea. Right, so it's important to know what's out there.
Right, officially, I'm not looking forward to winter at all.
Well, and I understand that there aren't vaccines against some of these viruses. So let's go ahead and take a look at this report and find out more about these winter viruses, and before talking more with Dr. Dan.
Viruses live off living cells in animals and plants, causing various diseases. There are viruses that are active in the winter and attack our bodies. They include the waterborne norovirus disease, the adenovirus infection that causes respiratory illnesses, the respiratory syncytial virus, also known as RSV, and the rhinovirus.
The viruses that are active in the winter usually proliferate in temperatures of 3 to 5 degrees. That's why even in the winter, we are not safe from viruses.
The adenovirus is most active from November to January and February, while the rhinovirus and RSV hit their peaks in October and November. With the continued extreme cold spells in the winter, due to the abnormalities in the weather conditions, winter viruses are also presenting a greater threat. And of those, the norovirus and RSV are some of the main viruses. Over the past 5 years, 1/3 of the food poisoning causes in the winter were caused by norovirus. The norovirus is most active in low temperatures, to the content that 45% of the virus still remains active in a virus-contaminated piece of ice after 17 days. The norovirus goes through a 24-hour incubation period and then causes symptoms such as headaches, fevers, nausea, stomach pain, and diarrhea.
As of now, we don't have vaccines or treatments, so the best protection is to prevent yourself from being exposed to it. The way to do this is by washing your hands properly and not eating oysters or vegetables raw.
Another virus that people need to be careful of is the respiratory syncytial virus. This is Kim Ju-won, who is suffering from a RSV that has caused bronchiolitis.
I held a lot of phlegm, and the sound of breathing was abnormal, so I brought him to the hospital.
RSV, which breaks out in the winter, can cause respiratory diseases in newborns or small infants, leading to conditions such as bronchiolitis. Bronchiolitis is similar to a cold. But it comes with an odd grating sound when breathing. According to a study by a university hospital, every 4 out of 10 children who suffer from RSV-caused bronchiolitis will have the same affection again within the next year.
If you have contracted the RSV, it's important to receive regular checkups for about 3 months to prevent it from progressing into asthma.
These viral diseases must not be overlooked in the winter, so it's important to prevent exposure and boost the immune system in order to stay healthy.
I remember some of us had contracted the norovirus last December with the oysters. It
some
was
of you,
not
some of us.
only me, maybe, but it wasn't pretty. But are there other viruses that we need to look out for during the winter season?
Right. So sometimes people will get really ill with a flu-like illness, and then when they're tested for influenza or RSV, the testing will come back negative. In these cases, we need to consider other possibilities such as the adenovirus, enterovirus, and coronavirus as well. Usually large hospitals will work with National Centers for Disease Control in order to identify these viruses and to track their spread.
So it looks like each virus has a different way of getting to people. So what are some of the common ways that people do get infected?
Right. So we're talking about routes of transmission. So in the case of norovirus, it's a very well-known food and liquid-borne illness. So you can get it through contaminated food. You can also get it if you touch a contaminated object and then your contaminated hand gets near your mouth or nose. You can get it that way as well. There's also person-to-person spread. Say if you're near someone who's vomited and then you unfortunately ingest
very unfortunate.
very unfortunate viral material, you can get sick that way. In terms of the adenovirus, it can be spread through infected objects, so towels and toys. Also, there's a waterborne, it's a waterborne illness as well, so through infected water. It can be also through fecal-oral transmission. So this is, the case for children who have very severe diarrhea, then it can be spread that way. For RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, it can be in infected objects, kind of widespread. So toys, towels, bedding, cooking utensils, these are all objects that can be contaminated with RSV and then obviously spread around the household and into the community. For coronavirus, that's a very difficult virus to grow in a laboratory, and so we're actually not sure how it's transmitted. We do suspect that it's person-to-person transmission, however.
I understand that antibiotics are not effective in treating viruses, and so how do you go about treating someone who's come down with a virus?
Right, so you're absolutely right. There is an antiviral, say, for influenza, but for the other viruses, treatment is largely what we call supportive. So if a person is hospitalized with one of these illnesses, they will probably receive supplemental oxygen. They can get an IV started so that we prevent dehydration. Anti-fever medicine is given. And we want to prevent and treat any secondary bacterial infections that might happen after the initial viral infection.
You know, listening to you explaining to us about the routes of transmission, it seems that there aren't that many airborne viruses, so everything is through touch. It seems simple enough, but can you tell us how we can prevent from getting these viruses?
Don't touch anything,
Basically,
maybe.
Either don't touch something, or what do you do?
Right, so the number one thing to do to prevent getting sick is frequent and proper hand washing. And so what you want to do is use soap and water. That's completely fine. And wash your hands. You want to sing inside your head, happy birthday twice. That's how long you should be rubbing both surfaces. So your palms and the backs of your hands, also in between your fingers. You can use an alcohol-based hand wash as well, but the norovirus is not as susceptible to alcohol as it is to just plain soap and water. Also, if there's a family member who's sick, obviously you want to try to isolate that family member. He or she should be using separate towels, separate bedding, separate cooking and eating utensils as well. These are all important measures to take.
Because I remember we all had that oyster dish together, and I was the only one who came down with this norovirus. So I guess my hands were dirty or something.
But you should also avoid raw foods. So make sure your food is cooked thoroughly, inside and out.
Oysters are so good. All right, thank you, Dr. Don, for this story.
You're welcome.
All right, that's all from us this Tuesday morning.
All right, remember, wash your hands, right? Sing happy birthday twice, not just one line. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.